Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. My name is Kayla Lopez, joining you here at the News 12 Now desk. It is 2:01, and we're about to hear from Augusta Mayor Garnet Johnson on an update on some relief efforts here.
No, we're not going anywhere yet. We're going.
It looks like they're maybe about to get started. I saw some movement, so I went ahead and pulled that up. But the biggest news is, as of about 45 minutes ago, Augusta did lift the boil water advisory. So that it will be the big news. I'm assuming he will also be announcing that here at this press conference. And then after this press conference, I also believe we have another press conference with South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster. And then we do also know that former President Donald Trump is in Evans today. So we should have some updates on that during our stream as well. But I'm going to take the sound back here and just make sure he hasn't gotten started. All right, and it looks like we are just still waiting on the exact start time. Let me pull up some things really quickly. I'll talk over that as well. But yeah, so Mayor Garnet Johnson is supposed to be speaking, holding a press conference. The big news is that the boil water advisory here has been lifted. So for those of you that have been waiting here in Augusta for some drinkable water right out of your sink or to brush your teeth with that water, the advisory has been lifted as of 45 minutes ago. So I believe that's what's going to be shared here shortly. And while we wait, I'm just going to tune back in. Looks like they might be getting started or they're waiting on a few more people, but I'm just going to take in this sound while we wait. Again, the mayor did also speak yesterday, providing some updates, and when he spoke yesterday about the boil water advisory, he said it wasn't looking like a matter of days, it was looking like a matter of hours, and that was when he had a press conference around the same time yesterday. So it is good news this afternoon, about 45 minutes ago, that boil water advisory has been lifted. So that will be some of the news I'm assuming he'll share, as well as some other updates in terms of recovery efforts. Yesterday when he spoke, that was the big thing he did say. Yesterday he said 69% power restored, as opposed to Wednesday morning that was 39%. So it does look like he's about to get started, guys. So we'll take in this.
Thank you for being here today. Here we are, day 8. Happy to announce that we have lifted the boil water advisory. The water is safe to drink. So that is a huge accomplishment. I want to give a kudos out to our utilities department folks who have worked around the clock to make that happen. I'm going to repeat that. The boil water advisory has been lifted and the water is safe to drink. We started off this morning with a visit from Lieutenant Governor Burton, who came in to get an update at our Emergency Operations Center. He and the entire Augusta legislative delegation, as you know, they'll be critical in helping Augusta get back to some sense of normalcy, making sure that we had a proper funding both at the state and federal level. And they have been very, very instrumental in us being able to access resources, so we couldn't thank them enough. Today we begin the process of what I mentioned yesterday, and that's taking the resources to the community. You know, in the past we've been using these pods, these points of distribution out at Southgate Plaza, Diamond Lakes, and down at the depot facility. There are so many neighborhoods that were essentially cut off and that they don't always have access to transportation. So we are taking the resources to the community by a couple of ways. We have a mutual aid agreement, as you know, we signed with DeKalb County. Their CEO, Michael Thurman. Today they delivered 10 truckloads of produce. They left DeKalb County about 3:30 or 4 o'clock this morning. We started those community resources at 8 o'clock at the Greater Young Zion Baptist Church. My heart was warming that the line extended all the way across the Beach Island Bridge at some point. At 10 o'clock we were at Good Samaritan Baptist Church. At noon, we're at Good Shepherd Baptist Church, my home. The distribution there was going well. At 2 o'clock, we're going to be at Broadway. A generous donation from FPL Foods of more than 80,000 pounds of fresh ground beef patty. So it's been phenomenal. I'm going to turn it over to the Chief in just a second, but I want to continue to reiterate that a curfew remains in place, even though we're regaining power. throughout our city. Every day we're making continuous improvement in restoring our traffic signals, but it still remains a dark, unsafe city in certain parts, so the 10 o'clock curfew will remain in place. And I'm going to continue to emphasize for our residents to be patient. Things are getting better. To be courteous. We realize that as things get better, there are more people out in lines. There's more people trying to access resources, and I understand that if you haven't had power or water for 8 days, it's certainly a testing time. So continue to be courteous, be patient. We're going into the weekend. Things are getting better. And we couldn't be more excited about all the help that we've received from our partners at the National Guard, the American Red Cross, United Way, the CSRA, the many agencies that have poured into our city to help us. Georgia Power Company who's helping us restore power. So thank them. And lastly, I want to thank the employees of Augusta, Richmond County, because they have really stepped up big. We've had 8 straight days and nights of working. Some of us a lot of long hours. I repeat that every single day. But we're getting better, and I appreciate and I thank them for their dedication. So now I'm going to turn it over to Chief Burton. He's going to give you an update on some of his responsibilities. Thank you, Chief. We'll take questions at the end.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Just have a few points that I want to ensure that you receive. The roads are being cleared. For the most part, they are clear with the exception of those that involve power lines. So all the major thoroughfares are clear. Most of the side roads are clear, with the exception of those that involve power lines. I want to also report that Georgia Power has continued to make progress. We're seeing progress by the hour. I'm pleased to report that they have indicated that they are at 72% restoration at this point. Our points of distribution continue to remain open, 9 a.m. to 6:30, providing ice, water, tarps, and MREs for those in our community. Volunteer support. Golden Harvest Bank is seeking volunteers for those that are interested in helping out our efforts. Please reach out to them if you're able to assist. Our shelters continue to remain open. May Park and Henry Brigham Center continue to remain open. We will be closing the Bell Auditorium this evening. And I want to end on a note as we continue to stress the importance of safety around your homes. Unfortunately, this morning, we had a tragic loss of life in a house fire this morning. So please remain diligent as we practice safe habits. Ensure that your stoves, if you don't have power, in the off position as power being restored. We ask that you take care as it relates to extension cords. If you have those, remove them. They can become a fire hazard. So we ask that you continue to support one another as we continue to recover from this hurricane.
All right, guys, we told you it was going to be brief. Now we're going to take a few questions. We're going to try to get back to work. We've got a busy day. You want the chief?
For Mr. Castle, Steve, a lot of folks this weekend are going to be spending time getting their limbs and leaves up. You're in charge, I guess, of the debris pickup. This company's going to be hitting. Will you get any updates on what people need to do? Where are these trucks going to be? How long? Just enough, because come Monday, I guess, we're going to have the surveys of this name of the company?
Ceres, CERES, and there's a monitoring firm too, GMC. Please tell me that if you go to print it, let them know there's a monitor and a debris removal. Yeah, George, they're going to be starting today. Actually, you'll see some trucks over here. What you'll see over there at the 401, the former jail site, is they'll be certifying trucks. They're measuring them, get the volume so they can start getting out and hauling. The monitoring firm will assign a monitor, so we monitor every stick from the point we pick it up all the way to the landfill. We're setting up several monitoring or management sites for them so that we short haul the shorter the haul, the quicker they can pick it up. So we're trying to, instead of having 2 like we had last time, I'm gonna try to have 4 or 5, so they're all efficiently. That's not for citizens to pick up or drop off. That's for them to manage it. But yes, start bringing your debris to the curb, or not the curb, but basically on the back of the curb. And understand how they're going to do this. They're going to come through. If your debris is not fully on the right of way, like a tree that fell across, they're just going to cut it at the right of way line, but you got to bring the rest of it forward. If there's a tree that fell that's uprooted, they're going to cut the tree. They're going to leave the stump. The stump, they will come back and get it. So if you're going to call and say, hey, they left the stump, it's coming back, and that'll be the last thing they do at the end. The initial aspect is to remove the hazard, and then they'll start picking up the heavy areas quick. And then as soon as they come through, start putting your debris back on the street for the second pass or whatever. So big thing I would say is be patient, because as they come, they will come back, and we will not leave until every road is certified as clean. But once they're certified clean, we're not coming back. So anyway, that's my biggest thing is be patient. Like, don't feel like you had to rush out there and pile stuff up and have it fall.
But they won't come on, they don't pick it up where the tree fell, you've got to bring it up to the curb.
If it fell into the right-of-way, we'll cut it at the right-of-way line.
It's in my backyard.
If it's in your backyard, yes. But there's volunteer organizations all around. I would try to check back with the chief. I'm not sure who the volunteer coordinator is. There's several groups that have come to town. Chief mentioned one yesterday, and I know there's a Baptist organization that's doing the same thing. They'll help people clean their yards, and it's. I would suggest that that if you got access to it, I would call the number before I would hire somebody to do mine, to be honest with you.
You got an estimate on final tally, how much is this going to cost?
Not an estimate. I mean, it'll be in excess of the ice storm, I figure, because the ice storm is mostly debris. We got infrastructure issues out too. The other thing is the engineering department will be out starting tomorrow, is assessing what drains were damaged, light poles, all of our city's normal infrastructure that got damaged during the thing, and then that'll also be part of our overall damage assessment. And then once we get to the point where the debris is managed, then we'll talk about what other waste, like construction debris, and how to handle that as well. But for right now, we're just focusing on debris in the street. Don't put any construction debris out on the street right now, and don't mix it with your debris. That will take time. We have to separate it. So.
Quick question there.
Yes, sir.
We were hearing a lot from people whose phones aren't working, whose internet isn't working, and all that. Are you working with the various service providers? Are they coming to the city to work together to get this done more quickly, or what's going on with that, if anything?
Yeah, they are. So one of our partners who was generous to donate $100,000 was Comcast. They traditionally have been here, probably working out in the field. They have hundreds of technicians that are dispatched throughout our city, throughout our county, to restore internet, and I think they also have phone service. AT&T, many of our cellular carriers also have resources in the area. They're deploying hotspots. As you know, without a phone and so many people utilizing their phones, signal has been spotty. So I think there's been some improvement over the last few days. I notice I don't have as many dropped calls, and I'm getting better reception. So there is, all the carriers are working in place to make sure that we have adequate communication. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned today that today is the starting date of bringing these resources to the community. Do y'all have any more plans in place to do distributions like the one that we're seeing today, the donation from DeKalb County? Can people donate to y'all to get these resources out to the community, or how?
Probably not at the level that we distributed 10 truckloads of produce, but you will see an additional effort to get more bottled water out to the community. We have a fairly healthy supply of things like formula and diapers, so that's probably going to be the next push you see. That's right now being organized so that we could push it out to the communities that desperately need it. George, I know you mentioned a question about those who perhaps don't have the money to pay to have trees removed from their yard. We have several companies that we're organizing that's going to offer some of those services for free. So you will hear more communications about that in the days to come. All right. Any other questions?
311. Trees that are down, people should call 311 to report it, right?
311 to report them, especially if it's blocking your path out. Hopefully at this point we've gotten everyone that's out of their homes. So if a tree is in the path of blocking your ability to leave your home, don't hesitate to call 311. Just keep in mind, sometimes if it's entangled in power lines, it creates a problem in that the debris removal and the tree crews do not touch, power lines. So it may take a little while to get the right team out there, but we're certainly getting better at that just about every day. That it, guys? Thank you. I'll continue to stay safe. Have a great weekend, and it's getting better. I promise you. Thank you.
Sorry, just realized that I was on mute. Sorry, mine. You just watched the Augusta Mayor Garnet Johnson give some much-needed updates on the city. And he did say that the boil water advisory had been lifted, which is really good news. He did say that the curfew is still intact, just for safety purposes, because Augusta still is very dark right now, but the water is safe for drinking. The Augusta Utilities water that we got the boil water advisory for a few days. But now we're taking a look at former President Donald Trump as he arrives in Augusta. He leaves about 2:10 this afternoon, and he will be touring some damage in Evans and getting briefed on that. And then we'll be speaking along with Georgia Governor Brian Kemp at the Performing Arts Center in Evans, and that should be around 3:45. So
Trying to take me out?
So it does look like he is getting ready to do it. He did also we did have Vice President Kamala Harris here just a few days ago touring some damage in Augusta, and he did say that the president had accepted Georgia Governor Brian Kemp's request for some federal reimbursement of legal costs for this building. And now we will have former President Donald Trump in Augusta as we speak. He will be going to Evans there, and then getting briefed with the Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, and then for a press briefing where they are both set to speak at 3:45. Our crews are there live now, so we'll get any of this review. But it does seem that we have a bit of a farther view than we did with the Vice President when she visited, so I don't know if we'll be able to see as much, but this is live right now. The plane is at about 2:10 p.m. Sorry, I'm going to turn this down just for a second because I can see that some of you can't really understand what I'm saying. But the water in Augusta is safe to drink. Mayor Garnet Johnson did just say that the boil water advisory has been lifted. They do say that since it's been lifted, to run all of your faucets, sinks, tubs for at least 2 minutes with cold water before you actually start drinking it. And he did mention in the press conference yesterday that there might be a bit of a chlorine smell to the water just because they've been adding a bit more for safety purposes. But he did say even with that smell, the water is still safe to drink and use. And the boil water advisory did get lifted about, I want to say about an hour ago now. So that is the update on the water. There's no longer a boil water advisory. Water is safe to drink. Just make sure you run cold water in all your faucets, sinks, tubs for 2 minutes before you actually start to consume the water. So that is going to be a great relief for those here in Augusta that have been able to get access to water. But what we're watching right now is former President Donald Trump as he arrives in Augusta. So I'm going to turn this back up really quick. Those were all, oh, and the curfew in Augusta is still in place, as it is still a dark city at the moment with lots of power outages continuing. So I'm going to take this in full. 1 second. Looks like our crews are on the move to get a better look. But this is former President Donald Trump arriving in Augusta today to tour some of the damage in Evans. So it looks like people are, service members are getting off of the airplane right now. And then again, from here, the former president should be going to Evans to tour some damage, and then he would be briefed with Governor Brian Kemp. And then they will go to have a press conference set for 3:45 at the moment. So obviously we'll have updates with that. We'll continue to follow along on this. But this is, our crews are there right now. This is live. Former President Donald Trump has arrived in Augusta. Should be seeing him step off the plane any minute now. But again, if you're just not joining us, we just got finished with a press conference with Augusta Mayor Garnet Johnson, where he did say the boil water advisory that had been in place for the last few days has now been lifted, and the water is now safe to drink. So if you are somebody that was affected by the Augusta Utilities Boil Water Advisory, you know somebody affected by it that isn't listening right now, make sure you pass that word on that the water is safe to drink. So again, just more people unloading from the airplane as we wait. And then I'm not sure exactly what will be said at this briefing at 3:45, but we will try to have that for you guys as power lines go down, and with a lot of the extensive damage, service is really spotty in a lot of areas, as I'm sure you guys know. And it looks like our crews are being redirected a bit. So excuse the shaky camera footage. This is live at the airport right now. So we will see what kind of view we get on this, but just 2 days ago we had Vice President Kamala Harris here in Augusta touring some damage as well, and she did announce that President Joe Biden had accepted Georgia Governor Brian Kemp's request for 100% federal reimbursement of local costs. These local costs included things like debris removal, EMS provided by the state, and necessities like food, shelter, and water that needed to be provided. So that is going to be a big relief to these local governments. But she was here 2 days ago, got briefed, and rode around and did a bus tour, and then released that statement before she headed off. She spent some time in the community, just getting some boots on the ground, and now we have, 2 days later, former President Donald Trump arriving in Augusta to get briefed on some of the damage in Evans. At 3 p.m., we also will be streaming, if we can get it, a press conference with South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster. Will be giving an update as well, so we'll see some of that. But in terms of Augusta local news, the mayor did say that the curfew does remain in place, and the EMA officials did state that there was a tragic death in a house fire this morning. So those were other news that was expressed at the press conference. They did say that yesterday, 69% of power was restored to Augusta, considering the 39% from Wednesday morning, which was a drastic difference. So the curfew is still in place from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Just because roads are still dark, power lines are still down, and Augusta is still a very dark place at the moment. So we are just waiting on the former president to leave the airplane and then should be headed to Evans. I don't know how much of a look our team will be able to get once they leave the airport, but we'll be sure to update you guys on that as well. But while we wait, the big announcement, if you're just now joining us, from the Augusta mayor in the press conference we just had, was that the boil water advisory had been lifted for Augusta utilities and those customers that rely on that water. So I know a lot of people still that probably don't have water or are still without power, but if you do have water and you just weren't able to drink it because we were under that boil water advisory, that has been lifted. The water is safe to drink. The mayor just says to run the water, the faucets, the sinks, and everything for at least 2 minutes cold water before you ingest the water or start to use the water for brushing your teeth or drinking or cooking. And he did say that they have been putting a little bit more chlorine than normal in the water, so you might smell a bit of have a heavier of a chlorine smell in the water, but the water will still be safe to drink even with that smell. It was just for extra precaution. So that was the big news from the press conference that we just listened to while we wait on former President Donald Trump to arrive here in Augusta. The Augusta mayor also held a press conference yesterday that said 69% of power had been restored to Augusta, as opposed to Wednesday morning where there was only 39%. So just some good updates. The curfew does remain in place, like I said, but the big news was that water is safe to drink. So former President Donald Trump has arrived in Augusta, landed about 2:10. Once he hops off this plane, he should be headed for Evans, where he will be meeting with Georgia Governor Brian Kemp at the Emergency Operations Center in Columbia County for a briefing on the damage there, and then at the Performing Arts Center for a news conference where both of them should be speaking at 3:45. We're told that is around there. So just waiting on any sort of movement here. Again, this is live. Our teams are there right now, and we were also here 2 days ago at the Augusta Regional Airport when Vice President Kamala Harris landed to tour some of the damage in Augusta as well. So it looks like we'll get a pretty good view here of this while we're waiting. Could be any second now. So we're just playing the waiting game here together. And then at 3 p.m. we should be hearing from South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster, who will also be holding the daily update press conference that we've sort of been seeing every day from local officials. We even got to hear from the mayor of North Augusta yesterday in an interview that your Meredith Anderson got with him at a press conference with South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, where he spoke. So we also got to speak with North Augusta mayor there, and he was just kind of talking about how proud he was of North Augusta. They've always had water. They never really had a shut-off of water, an issue with their water, which was really great. And when we heard from South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, he was really passionate about wanting FEMA on the ground in Aiken, where he was yesterday, and seeing some of the damage there. And he did say that FEMA would be in Aiken before the sun rose tomorrow being today. So hopefully they do have some FEMA representatives there in Aiken ready to provide some relief, take some names, verify some addresses, and maybe get people some help over there. So we should be hearing again from McMaster here at 3, and then shortly after that at 3:45 is when we should be having the press briefing with Georgia Governor Brian Kemp and former President Donald Trump. So hang with us, stick with us through all of this. You're probably going to hear me repeat myself a lot just because we constantly have new viewers joining us that might need the important information. So again, if you're just now joining, you're one of those people, the boiled water advisory in Augusta has been lifted, so your water is safe to drink. After a few days without being able to drink the water, it is now safe to drink. Just make sure you run it for 2 minutes, cold water, all your faucets, sinks, tubs, before you begin to use it. And then the extra bit of the chlorine smell is normal, the mayor said. Curfew does still remain in place in Augusta, Richmond County. It is 10 p.m. now. It was extended yesterday, just so that way people who are back to work can do some of the things that they need to do before they get home, whether that be get gas or grab a couple things at a store. So it is no longer 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. It has now been extended to 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., but it is still in place. Again, just waiting any moment now for the former president to walk out of this airplane. I'm sorry if we're having some problems with the sound. I'm going to try and get that fixed now as well. Just bear with me while I do all this from the desk. Again, we had Vice President Kamala Harris here just 2 days ago in Augusta touring damage as well, but we are just still waiting for the former president to step off of the airplane that landed at about 2:10, and I'm almost positive that is right on time. I think his team told us that he would land at 2:10, and we got the notification that he had landed at exactly 2:10. So things seem to be right on schedule there, just now waiting for him to leave the aircraft. But the good news here in Augusta is that the boil water advisory has been lifted. So that is good news coming into your Friday afternoon that we received just about an hour ago. No need to boil your water anymore here in Augusta if you're Augusta Utilities. That is good news for a Friday afternoon. I know so many people are still without power or still without access to water, but the mayor was emphasizing that those drinking points, water distribution sites will still be open for those who need it, even though this boil water advisory has been lifted. So that is also great news. So then we will see what the former president and the governor have to share at about 3:45, and then we will hear from McMaster around 3. I believe we will have that here on the stream as well. But just waiting for any sort of movement here right now. But it's good to see these officials, whether they're local, state, national, to see all these officials in these areas getting some boots on the ground and seeing some of the damage here across the CSRA and surrounding counties. We did have Vice President Kamala Harris in Augusta 2 days ago, where she got briefed of sort of the damage here as well, and then did say that President Joe Biden had approved of Georgia Governor Brian Kemp's request of 100% federal reimbursement of local cost, which was great news. Will hopefully provide some relief to those local counties, local cities. She was on a bus tour around Augusta. She ended up going to the Henry Brigham Community Center and just had some boots on the ground there, just watching as the Red Cross was already holding an event there for distribution efforts and relief efforts, and she went there as well. But she really was also emphasizing FEMA assistance. That was another big thing. Oh, and it looks like he is exiting the aircraft right now. Here is former President Donald Trump arriving in Augusta, coming down the steps of the airplane right now as we speak, live at Augusta Regional Airport. I'm gonna see if we can get some sound maybe. Looks like he's coming over for a word. know you guys might have some trouble hearing him. I am also having trouble hearing him. I'm trying to get that fixed as well. It doesn't look like we have a direct microphone on him at the moment, and that is going to be why you can't
What
really
is
hear
the
him.
administration not doing that it should be doing in response to Helene?
One thing, $1 billion stolen from Israel. They use it for illegal migrants, many of them are criminals to come into our country. And people in Augusta, they don't have any money. And it's total mismanagement. As bad as it can get. FEMA has not done the job. Meaning, the federal government, Kamala and Joe have not done the job, obviously. They have $1 billion, $1 billion to me, existing, supposed to be used for hurricanes and things like that. And they don't have any money. This is the worst administration in the history of our country. Thank you very much.
So it was a bit hard to kind of make out a little bit of what he was saying there. We obviously didn't have a direct microphone on the former president, so we weren't able to hear any of what he said. But I'm going to take here. It looks like our crews are on the move, literally running. So we'll give them a break for a second. We'll check back in with them here in a minute, but that was former President Donald Trump landing in Augusta. He will be touring Evans today, checking out some of the damage there, and then providing a press conference at 3:45 at the Performing Arts Center in Columbia County. So our crews are on the move right now to continue to follow him along his movement today. He should be getting briefed from here. He should be going to, excuse me for 1 second, he will be going to the Emergency Operations Center, and he will be getting briefed with Georgia Governor Brian Kemp over there, and then at 3:45 we should be hearing from them. In about 20 minutes here shortly, we will also be hearing from South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster. He will be holding sort of the daily briefing that they've had over the last couple of days on some updates of relief. We did lose the footage from the former president landing in Augusta. Our teams are on the move. We'll be following him today. We'll have updates with you with that as soon as we get it. But for now, we are continuing to wait. I do want to provide some other updates for those of you that are just now joining us. Before we had the landing of the former president here in Augusta, we did have a press conference with the mayor of Augusta, who had some good news. I'm going to remove all this from the screen really quick. Who had some good news that the boil water advisory for Augusta had been lifted, which is great news. So the water in Augusta is safe to drink at the moment. So that's great news. Water is safe to drink. They just said run it for about 2 minutes with cold water before you actually drink it to kind of flush the system out. Also said that the curfew is still in place from 10 p.m. It got extended yesterday from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. So the extended curfew is still in place, 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. just for everybody's safety, because Augusta is still very dark right now with lots of downed power lines. We did hear from the EMA director, who did say that there was a tragic death this morning in a house fire. So obviously still so much devastation surrounded by the effects of Hurricane Helene. Here in just a few short moments, we should be hearing from South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster. Just some updates there. Don't know how long that will run for, but then at some point we will, if we can, get a shot of it. Service has been super spotty in a lot of these areas, just with power outages and power lines down. So we're going to try and get a shot of that briefing with former President Donald Trump when he speaks with Georgia Governor Brian Kemp. But we will not know how good that looks until closer to 3:45. So until then, we will be waiting on South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster to be speaking. Again, if you're just now joining us, the boil water advisory here in Augusta has been lifted. Your water is safe to drink. You can drink your water. It's great news for this Friday afternoon. I know there's still a lot of work to be done, a long ways to go here and in some surrounding areas, but that is some news for today, that your boil water advisory here in Augusta for Augusta Utilities has been lifted. So there probably will be some traffic due to the former President Donald Trump being here in Augusta today, so also keep a lookout for that. I'm sure that could cause a little bit of traffic. So now we just kind of play a little bit of a waiting game while we wait for some of these other press conferences to start. I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break, and then we'll be back with some updates and any other information I have while we wait on some other press conferences to begin. So we will be right back. All right, and we are back after a quick little break. If you're just now joining us, I am going to be ending the stream on our website here now. We do have our Mix at 3 coming up, so you guys can tune into that as well. But I am going to continue this stream on our Facebook and our YouTube channels. Our Facebook is News 1226 Augusta, and our YouTube is WRDW News 12. So feel free to follow us and continue this on either of those platforms. I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream on the website and the app right now if that's where you're watching from. So come join us over there on one of those streaming platforms if you'd like to continue. So went ahead and turned that stream off. Just want to provide some updates in case you're just now joining us and you've just tuned into the stream. Two things happened this morning or this afternoon while we've been on the stream. One is that the Augusta mayor held a press conference basically stating that the boil water advisory for Augusta had been lifted. The Augusta Utilities boil water advisory was lifted, so your water is safe to drink now, the mayor said in That's great news for a Friday afternoon with all the devastation that we've been surrounded by. And there is still a lot of work to be done and a lot of work to go. I know many of you are still without water, period, and power, but this is one good step. Yesterday, he did say that there was 69% of Augusta with power. It was a bit of a quick press conference this afternoon, mainly to give that update. They did give the sad news that there was a tragic death in a house fire this morning. The EMA director said that at the press conference. And the other news was that the curfew will remain in place here in Richmond County. That it got extended yesterday. It was 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Got extended yesterday to 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Now the curfew is still in place, but it is the extended curfew, the 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. And that's just, he stated, to give people that are going back to work now or out a little bit later an opportunity to go get those necessities, go get gas, go stop by the grocery store, go do anything that they need to do a little bit later now that the roads are becoming a bit safer. But he did say that Augusta is still a fairly dark place with lots of power outages, so hence why that curfew is still in place. Right after that, at the same time, we just watched former President Donald Trump arrive at the Augusta Regional Airport. We watched him get off his airplane, and he will be going to Evans today to tour some damage there, along with Georgia Governor Brian Kemp. He will be getting briefed and then touring some of the damage, and then we should be hearing from both of them around 3:45 at the Columbia County Performing Arts Center. I'm not sure exactly what they'll be sharing, but our crews are following along. So once we have some good visuals on that or any updates at all, I'll share that with you guys as well. Here in just about 10 to 15 minutes, if they start on time, we should be hearing from South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster. That will be next. It's been sort of these daily press conference updates that they've been giving. So while we wait on that, I want to show you guys a couple resources on our website as well. I know we have a lot of questions coming in about FEMA or about where you can get food or water or anything like that. So I wanted to show you a couple of the pages on our website that would be very helpful to you guys if you guys need the resources, if you have the internet and you can use this resource. So go onto our website, WRDW.com. This is obviously the story we're following today as Trump arrived to discuss some storm damage in Columbia County. But if you go to click news and you scroll, I'm not sure how long I'll be scrolling right now, but we do have some articles about FEMA and how to apply. They do have a pop-up shop, I believe, at the Home Depot, or they did yesterday. Yes. Okay, it is open today. So Insurance Claims Village is what they're calling it. So it's basically sort of a FEMA pop-up shop on Bobby Jones Expressway, the Home Depot parking lot over there. Open until 7 p.m. today. You don't file your claim there. You have to go through insurance first, but they have a bunch of different insurance companies there, and they will be there to help you as well. So this is that form. I want to see if and we do have this in Spanish as well. The information here is the website and the phone number that you can call for the disaster assistance. So this article right here titled FEMA's on the scene, how to file your Helene aid application, this would be very helpful for that as well. I also want to this is that article on the boil water advisory I've been mentioning. Other big news 2 hours ago, that the boil water advisory has been lifted for those customers in Augusta and Richmond County. Here is the other big one I wanted to show you, this free food and water, where to get it across the CSRA. If you click here, this is something we update every few hours as we get new information, but it's where you can get water and ice, food, and we have a separate one for shelter, I believe. But this is everything going on that we know of today. Start times, a lot of them are until they run out of resources or until supplies run out, like we see right here. But we do have start times, addresses, locations that we are updating. So if you're still in need of some of those essential resources, this is that the article on our webpage that you can go to find it. We are kind of going day by day with this right now, so we don't have anything much in terms of Saturday and Sunday, but that's just because a lot of these people that are out in the community coming together to supply food, water, ice, they're kind of doing it on a day-to-day basis, so we don't really know if they're going to be back out tomorrow until the end of today. So those are some updates on that. Food, water, ice, addresses. We also have one for shelter as well. And then on most of these articles, we have this really large playlist. If you're wondering about anything we've covered about Helene over the past week, this will be that go-to if you want some visuals on any interviews that we've done, whether it be the interview with Brian Kemp or any other city leaders, any mayor press conferences or anything. That'll all be in here if you'd like to get some visual representation of that as well. Another one I wanted to see, this is a list of county and city offices that are closed, and this will be the list on the school closure updates. I know, I can't remember if it was yesterday or the day before, but we were told that students in Richmond County schools will be returning on October 16th. I'm not sure exactly what day of the week that is. I can tell you right now, that's not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after is going to be October 16th. So this will be the update on all of those school reopenings, anything we know about that, anything that's closed at the moment in terms of that. So those are just some really important lists. I know scamming has been a really big problem that officials have been warning about, so we do have some articles on that as well. But the really big ones I wanted to express to you guys were this free food and water, where to get it. This is always being updated, so please keep a lookout on that. New things are always being added. And then the FEMA on the scene and the information on how to file your claim as well. So, take back to myself here. Just checking to make sure I'm not missing any new and important information that we've received. But in other news today, former President Donald Trump did arrive in Augusta today. He did say, sorry, I'm just reading all this. Former President Donald Trump did land in Augusta today. He will be getting briefed on the situation in Evans and some of Columbia County, and then we will be hearing from him at 3:45. Any minute now, we should be hearing from McMaster as well, the South Carolina governor. And speaking of governors, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp will be with former President Donald Trump as he is speaking, and will be briefing him and will be a part of everything that goes on today. Just 2 days ago, we had Vice President Kamala Harris in town touring some of the damage here in Augusta as well. And at one of the spots that she spoke at, she did say that President Joe Biden had approved of Georgia Governor Brian Kemp's request of 100% federal reimbursement of local costs, which is great news for local cities and local counties' economies alike. And she did say that would include things like debris removal, the emergency services provided by the state, and things that needed to be provided like food, water, and shelter, so that hopefully that can provide a little bit of relief to those local governments. And then encouraging the FEMA assistance. We had, I want to say, if I can count in my head, 4 press conferences yesterday. We had the Augusta Mayor press conference, and then we spoke with South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. Then we had Henry McMaster, and then at the Lindsey Graham event, we also got an interview with North Augusta Mayor and plenty others that we were showing in some of our newscasts, but lots of information came from those. But the overall message was that it's going to be slow progress, but it's happening. The progress is happening in all of these different areas. North Augusta Mayor said Britton Williams said he could not be more proud of North Augusta. I believe they never had an issue with their water, but also, of course, if you're just now joining us, you probably don't know, but I'm going to say it again, that the boil water advisory for Augusta has been lifted, so your water here is safe to drink. That's good news for a Friday afternoon. I know a lot of people are still struggling, and relief is hopefully coming soon, and we'll continue to cover all of that for you guys as well. So while we wait on Henry McMaster, waiting on some of that video to come up, I just wanted to provide some of those updates. We did have former President Donald Trump land in Augusta at 2:10. His team told us he would be landing at 2:10. He landed at exactly 2:10 from what our reporter Will Rio, who was with the vice president 2 days ago when she visited, and is also going to be out following the former president today. So he's been out there working hard, getting these good shots for us. So while we wait on that, and then any updates we have on that as well, I'll also provide. But I just wanted to go over some of the notes that I've been taking over the last couple days, and if you missed any of the press conferences, or you live in some of these areas and you're wondering what the topics of discussion are. First thing from South Carolina Governor McMaster at the meeting yesterday, he did say that it was 39 the day before, but as of yesterday, it was 41 storm-related deaths, is what he said at that press conference. Hopefully, we don't get an updated raised number today. Other big news yesterday was that 3 other counties had gotten approved for FEMA assistance, and that's Lorenz, Marion, and Edgefield counties that have been approved for FEMA assistance to apply for that aid. As of Wednesday night, they were not approved, and then as of Thursday morning, they had gotten approved. So that was other big news if you're from one of those areas. While we wait on McMaster, again, if you're just now joining us, I'm just kind of giving some updates over the last couple days while we wait on another press conference to begin and get some new information. But we will be sticking with the stream, but I'm just updating you guys on some of the notes that I took over the last couple days to keep you guys informed. We've been here streaming live, I want to say 3 days in a row for about 3 hours in a row every day. So we want to make sure we get that information out to you guys. But yesterday we also heard from South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. And a lot of things kind of came out of this press conference, but he just seemed really, really passionate about getting some assistance, more boots on the ground, and getting some FEMA representatives in Aiken, where he held the press conference. And at the press conference on yesterday, he said that FEMA would be in Aiken by the time the sun came up tomorrow being today. So hopefully there are some FEMA representatives in Aiken County. But you're talking about what he said was decades worth of infrastructure being wiped out in just about 4 hours. So there's some real healing that needs to go on in a lot of these areas. So we've been hearing from a lot of state and local leaders on recovery efforts and updates, which is why we've been having these press conferences streamed every day, because they're happening every day, because there are new developments every single day. So he said that FEMA needed to be there and that they were coming. So we just got to keep helping each other. We've had a lot of reporters out in the field at different distribution sites, at different areas where they're providing food or water, whether it be a church, whether it be a parking lot, whether it be a drive-through giveaway or a cookout or a grill out or whatever it is. We've spoken to so many people in such good spirits. And we've spoken to a lot of the people out there who are giving the food out, like a lot of these first responders and servicemen who probably don't have power or water on in themselves, or are probably going through the same issues just as anybody else, but they do recognize that it is their job and they want to be there to provide for the community. So it's been so good to see how the communities come together in these last 8 days to provide for each other and see everybody coming together and see some people with a positive attitude. On Monday, me and Nick Proto, who has been out in the field as well, working so many hours to try and get some coverage to you guys and try to get some information out to you guys. We drove down to Johnston, and the welcome to Johnston sign had been toppled over. And we spoke with a woman there who had some fallen trees in her yard, and she told us that all she did was lose power, and if that's all that she can say, then she's in good hands. So it's been so great to see people with such a positive attitude about this, because we do know that so many people are still struggling, and it is going to be a slow recovery. But like we say it here outside of the station on all of our monitors, to stay strong, Augusta. So a lot of these meetings were just kind of updates on recovery efforts. North Augusta Mayor Britton Williams did say that North Augusta city water is clean, and that he was 100% focused on getting power up for those of you that do not have it. But plenty of charging stations are still available, shelters, water distribution sites. I know the mayor of Augusta was saying that there are, I believe 3 shelters still open for the general public, but he said the numbers of those who need to stay in those shelters goes down every night. And while that may be true as well and is a good sign, we were live with your Sydney Hood a little bit earlier, who was at what the mayor was saying, that DeKalb County had dropped off all these boxes of produce that was being distributed. She was there this morning, in the line of cars that had been there since before the distribution was set to start, just waiting for this, shows that there's still such a great need in this community for these resources. So while things still seem to be getting better very slowly, we do know, and our teams know, that the need is still there. So we want to make sure that we get all those resources out to you guys as well, because the amount of people that are still showing up for these resources and still showing up to get these MREs and to get these supplies and this food and this water and this ice or whatever it is that's being provided to the community, people are still showing up, and it just shows how much need is still there. So even though your power might have come back up or now your water's drinkable, there is still a great need in the community. And one of the city officials said yesterday, it's just kind of getting used to a new normal as we recover from some of this damage. So again, still waiting on South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster to speak. Should be here any minute now once we get that up, waiting on that. And then here in just about 45 minutes, I've been on and on rambling and talking ahead of myself so much, and in just about 40 minutes we should be hearing from former President Donald Trump and Georgia Governor Brian Kemp in Columbia County in Evans at the Performing Arts Center there. So time's kind of going by a little bit fast for me right now, so maybe I should slow down my talking a little bit. But those were kind of the big updates. Again, if you're just out joining us, hello, good afternoon. It's 3:03 here at News 12. I'm sure it's 3:03 for you as well, if your clock's working. And we were following former President Donald Trump as he landed in Augusta today. We'll be touring some of the damage in Evans, and then getting briefed on that by Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, and then they will both be speaking at 3:45. So that's coming up in just about 40 minutes if they're on time. His team did say his plane would land at 2:10. They landed at exactly 2:10. So I can only expect that maybe that will also be on time as well. What is not on time is this, was just waiting on Henry McMaster to speak, but it doesn't look like I have that yet. But it's okay. Waiting on that. I can keep talking. And that was supposed to start at 3, so I'll have that whenever we can get that. So just checking over here, making sure everything's good on our streams. Hello Facebook, hello YouTube. How you doing? It is Friday. It's been a long week, but it is Friday. It's Friday. And lots of things going on this Friday. We just had Augusta Mayor Garnett Johnson speak, who said that the boil water advisory had been lifted in Augusta, which is great news, which means that your water is drinkable, your water is safe to drink. If you're just now joining us for the first time, and this is the first time you're hearing about this, he did mention to run on your faucets, sinks, tubs for 2 minutes with cold water before you start to drink the water, just to be safe. And then in the press conference yesterday, he did also tell us that you might notice a little bit of a stronger chlorine smell than normal in the water, but that is just out of an abundance of caution, he said, to sort of get rid of any leftover bacteria or germs or whatever he called it. And but the water is still safe to drink and use and cook with. It just might have a little bit of a stronger smell. So those were all the big news yesterday. So I'm going to take another quick little break, and then we'll be right back, hopefully with either the McMaster press conference beginning, or just kind of recapping some information while we wait. But here, just before 4 o'clock, we should be hearing from former President Donald Trump and Georgia Governor Brian Kemp after they tour some of the storm damage in Evans and Columbia County. And we'll hear from them at the Performing Arts Center, and our crews are out there following them. So as soon as we have that, we'll take that for you. But I'm going to put us on another quick little break, and we'll see you in about 3 minutes. All right, I am back after a quick little break. I did just pull over some video from the Augusta mayor's press conference that happened just about an hour ago. So for those of you that are just now tuning in and are wondering about the boil water advisory or wondering about those major updates from this afternoon, I'm going to go ahead and play that for you guys as well. So here is that for you guys real quick.
How y'all doing today? Good. Getting the thoughts together. Oh my goodness, they done brought. Wait a minute.
While we wait, I'm going to skip through that just a little bit to the point where he actually gets started really quickly. So here we go.
Be safe, family good. Power's getting encouraging.
It's like a little bit. Here
We started off this morning with a visit from Lieutenant Governor Burton Jones, who came in to get an update at our Emergency Operations Center. He and the entire Augusta legislative delegation, as you know, they'll be critical in helping Augusta get back to some sense of normalcy, making sure that we had a proper funding both at the state and federal level. And they have been very, very instrumental in us being able to access resources, so we couldn't thank them enough. Today we began the process of what I mentioned yesterday, and that's taking the resources to the community. You know, in the past we've been using these pods, these points of distribution out at Southgate Plaza, Diamond Lakes, and down at the depot facility. There are so many neighborhoods that were essentially cut off and that they don't always have access to transportation. So we are taking the resources to the community by a couple of ways. We have a mutual aid agreement, as you know, we signed with DeKalb County. Their CEO, Michael Thurman. Today they delivered 10 truckloads of produce. They left DeKalb County about 3:30 or 4 o'clock this morning. We started those community resources at 8 o'clock at the Greater Young Zion Baptist Church. My heart was warming that the line extended all the way across the Beach Island Bridge at some point. At 10 o'clock, we were at Good Samaritan Baptist Church. At noon, we're at Good Shepherd Baptist Church, my home. The distribution there was going well. At 2 o'clock, we're going to be at Broadway off of Barton Chapel, and at 4 at Faith Outreach. And these resources include fresh boxes of produce, as well as a generous donation from FPL Foods of more than 80,000 pounds of fresh ground beef patty. So it's been phenomenal. I'm gonna turn it over to the Chief in just a second, but I want to continue to reiterate that a curfew remains in place, even though we're regaining power throughout our city. Every day we're making continuous improvement in restoring our traffic signals, but it still remains a dark, unsafe city in certain parts, so the 10 o'clock curfew will remain in place. And I'm going to continue to emphasize for our residents to be patient. Things are getting better. To be courteous. We realize that as things get better, there are more people out in lines. There's more people trying to access resources, and I understand that if you haven't had power or water for 8 days, it's certainly a testing time. So continue to be courteous, be patient. We're going into the weekend. Things are getting better. And we couldn't be more excited about all the help that we've received from our partners at the National Guard, the American Red Cross, United Way, the CSRA, the many agencies that have poured into our city to help us. Georgia Power Company who's helping us restore power. So thank them. And lastly, I want to thank the employees of Augusta Richmond County, because they have really stepped up big. We've had 8 straight days and nights of working. Some of us a lot of long hours. I repeat that every single day. But we're getting better, and I appreciate and I thank them for their dedication. So now I'm going to turn it over to Chief Burton. He's going to give you an update on some of his responsibilities. Thank you, Chief. We'll take questions at the end.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Just have a few points that I want to ensure that you receive. The roads are being cleared. For the most part, they are clear with the exception of those that involve power lines. So all the major thoroughfares are clear. Most of the side roads are clear, with the exception of those that involve power lines. I want to also report that Georgia Power has continued to make progress. We're seeing progress by the hour. I'm pleased to report that they have indicated that they are at 72% restoration at this point. Our points of distribution continue to remain open 9 a.m. to 6:30, providing ice, water, tarps, and MREs for those in our community. Volunteer support. Golden Harvest Bank is seeking volunteers for those that are interested in helping out our efforts. Please reach out to them if you're able to assist. Our shelters continue to remain open. May Park and Henry Brigham Center continue to remain open. We will be closing the Bell Auditorium this evening. And I want to end on a note as we continue to stress the importance of safety around your homes. Unfortunately, this morning, we had a tragic loss of life in a house fire this morning. So please remain diligent as we practice safe habits. Ensure that your stoves, if you don't have power, in the off position as power being restored. We ask that you take care as it relates to extension cords. If you have those, remove them. They can become a fire.
All right, so we'll come back to that a little bit later, but we do have a feed of the briefing with former President Donald Trump in Columbia County right now. So I'm going to go ahead and take this so we can tune into what they're speaking about right now.
Lucky for us, we were able to, again, set everything up. Our first 24 hours of operation, it was a response operation. We immediately went into clearing. The very first morning we started clearing, and by daylight the next day, we had a lot of our major roads already cleared. In day 2, Columbia County went proactive. We decided we weren't going to sit back. It was no longer a response. We went proactive, and we said we've got to make sure this community is taken care of. Even though there was no gas, no grocery stores open or anything like that, we were able to make sure that we could get to all residents. We used social media to try to manage. In this particular case, all we're going to have TV stations. And 60,000 people without power, 95% of our county, but a lot of people had charged their phones. So we were giving daily updates and multiple updates daily, letting the folks in Columbia County know where they stood. Fortunately for us, again, we were able to get a shelter set up. And while we appreciate our partners at Red Cross and certainly appreciate our partners at GEMA, Columbia County was self-sufficient enough that we set up our shelter in the first 24 hours, and we were able to shelter over 250 residents of this county with no help from the outside. Most of the stuff that you've seen so far, we've been self-sufficient on. So we've been kind of having a tagline here, Columbia County Strong. And just want to say that I want to thank the people in this room for remaining Columbia County Strong. They got it done in our darkest hour. So thank you very much. And thank you both for being here, and thank you for your support. We very much appreciate it. We've got a long way to go, but I can tell you from what you've seen on the way in, you can see we've gotten a lot done in the first week. We still have about 20,000 without power in the county. We're working on that. We'll answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Scott.
Steady working on the power. I know driving in, there was lineman crews on the main routes pulling wire, so they're getting after it. It's amazing the damage to Crow. We've seen it from one end of the state to the other, so I cannot thank y'all enough for what you're doing on the response side. It's been incredible.
Have you ever had anything like this? So you've been doing this for a while. Have you ever had a hurricane or a storm like this one?
Never, Mr. President. This has been the most devastating thing that ever happened to this area. We had an ice storm in 2014. We think our debris management is going to be about 5 times greater in this storm than the ice storm in 2014, which crippled the county for about a week. But again, I think we're 5 times worse in this situation.
You're doing a great job. I want to thank the governor. The governor's working hard. I know that for a fact, and very effectively. So I just want to thank on behalf of everybody the governor. Really good job, Ryan.
I would tell you, Mr. President, this storm, to put into perspective, Georgia Power's worst storm they've ever dealt with. They had to repair 1,700 poles. This one's over 8,000.
Wow, that's amazing.
So it's just significantly bigger than anything we've ever had to deal with.
Is communication okay with Starlink, with the addition of Starlink?
Well, communication's getting better. It's one of the first things that GEMA was working on, was trying to get power, cell phone towers, obviously, medical facilities, hospitals, 911 centers. A lot of counties like this are self-sufficient in being able to get operability going. But certainly any communication for some of these counties, I mean, there was no power, no cell phone towers, so Starlink, and we were also sending sat phones out, so satellite phones, just so we could communicate with the 911 and the local emergency managers.
Great job. Great job. I want to thank you all. I know what you've been through. This has been a tough one. And I know North Carolina, but also South Carolina, Tennessee, and Alabama, Florida.
So it does look like our team was just asked to leave the room. It did look like former President Donald Trump was beginning to be briefed on sort of the situation in Columbia County. Give me a second to remove some of this. But what we just watched was our News 12 team. We have Will Rio out in Columbia County. Former President Donald Trump landed here at about 2:10 p.m. They took him to Columbia County, where he is currently being briefed at the Emergency Operations Center along with Georgia Governor Brian Kemp. They were set to speak together at the Performing Arts Center and hold a press briefing at 3:45. So if we can have that for you as well, we will. We'll be here for that. But in other news this morning, we were watching the press conference from Augusta Mayor Garnett Johnson, where he did say that the boil water advisory for Augusta had been lifted and that the water here is safe to drink, which is great news. So we just lost the feed from that. Obviously, our crews were asked to leave the room, but you could hear former President Donald Trump sort of asked the officials in Columbia County, have you seen anything like this before? To which they were all pretty much like, no. We've never seen anything like this before. And Georgia Governor Brian Kemp kind of put it in perspective, and they were talking about the benefit of some of the satellite phones that had been provided in keeping communication up in some of the areas that were having the most trouble. So that is not the last that we will see of that this afternoon. We also will check back in with this around 3:45 when they're set to speak. Don't know if that will be any late, but former President Donald Trump did land in Augusta 2:10 today, and I do have a video of that if you guys are just now joining us and would like to see that as well. So this is just a short 20-second video that we put together really quick of the plane landing and then him also stepping off of the airplane. So it's just a quick little video for those of you that maybe missed it. This was earlier today, probably around 2:45 that he actually stepped off of the aircraft. So just a quick short video of that. I'll play it one more time for those of you that are maybe just now tuning into the stream. This is former President Donald Trump landing in Augusta at 2:10 this afternoon, and then proceeding to get off of the airplane. I believe about 30 minutes later, around 2:45. We just got a live feed from the Emergency Operations Center in Columbia County, where he was being briefed by officials there. We could not stay for the entire briefing, but for the beginning of it, we were in there where he was asking officials, have you ever seen anything this bad? To which the officials said, no, we haven't seen anything this bad. And Georgia Governor Brian Kemp was also in the room, will be with Donald Trump today as he sort of tours the damage around Columbia County. And then we'll speak with him later when they both speak at the Performing Arts Center. So they are both in the room right now, just kind of Donald Trump is getting briefed on sort of the situation and the damage there, and then they will both speak at 3:45. I do not know what they will be speaking about. If anything will be getting announced, I'm not sure of that. But this does come 2 days after Vice President Kamala Harris visits Augusta as well to tour some of the damage here in Augusta, to which she made the announcement that President Joe Biden had approved of Georgia Governor Brian Kemp's request for 100% federal reimbursement of local costs. And the vice president went on to say that this includes things like debris removal and the emergency services that are provided by the state and the necessities like food, water, and shelter that these local governments have had to provide in terms of relief. So that would be big for those local governments to get that 100% federal reimbursement of local costs. So that was the big thing 2 days ago when she came to visit. And now today we have the former President Donald Trump in Columbia County. He landed at the Augusta Regional Airport around 2 o'clock and touring some of the damage there. And then we'll be giving a press briefing supposed to be scheduled for 3:45 at the Performing Arts Center with Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, who will be along with him on this as well. Right now they're at the Emergency Operations Center in Columbia County, where he is getting briefed on sort of the damage over there in Evans and the rest of Columbia County, and sort of the state of that county, and possibly even more briefed on other counties, local areas, on sort of the magnitude of the storm and the damage that was caused by that. I'm just checking to make sure I don't have any other live footage that I'm missing that I'm supposed to be showing right now. But yes, so if you're just now joining us, that's what I was just kind of playing, was the footage of former President Donald Trump arriving into Augusta today. In about 20 minutes we're supposed to be hearing from them. I'm not sure if that will run on time, because I did just see we took them live at the Emergency Operations Center here just about 5 minutes ago. So waiting on that. And then just want to see if I'm missing on anything over here. We did have the Augusta News Conference this afternoon as well. That started at 2 p.m. We were going to have Henry McMaster, South Carolina governor, speak as well, but I'm not sure if we will have that or if that's still going on. But he was scheduled to speak today at 3, sort of the daily press conference that all of these local and state officials have been having to kind of provide updates to the community on the state of their area and the state of the community. So just to provide some quick updates, if you're just now joining us, we started off with the mayor's press conference in Augusta, where they did say that the boil water advisory had been lifted. So the water here in Augusta, Richmond County through Augusta Utilities is safe to drink. You can drink the water, but the mayor did give two sort of points that he wanted to make with that as well. And the first one that he said yesterday was that the water might have a bit of an extra chlorine smell in it, just out of precaution for wanting to make sure that anything that's left in the water has been gotten rid of. It is kind of basically what he said about that, but it is still safe to drink even with that chlorine smell. And then he did say, now that the boil water advisory had been lifted, that you should run your faucets, sinks, tubs, all of those for 2 minutes with cold water before you actually begin to drink the water and cook with it. So those were the two tips that he gave on that, or the advisory that he gave on that. Yesterday, when he spoke at the press conference, he said that it wasn't, when we were still under the boil water advisory, he said that it wasn't a matter of days, but a matter of hours before we got the boil water advisory lifted. And here we are, and it was about 1 p.m. today, so almost a full 24 hours. And the advisory was lifted, so that's great news. So just want to make sure we are still waiting. I know that about 3:45 we should be hearing at that press conference for former President Donald Trump. And but yeah, we should be hearing from that as well. So I'm going to keep you updated on that. But I just wanted to give some other big updates that they were mentioning. They did say, the Augusta mayor did say that the curfew is still in place. It got extended yesterday from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. It got extended. Now it's 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. It is still in place. It just got extended yesterday. And he said it was just because there are people who are back to work now that need to go out to the gas stations, and they need to go, maybe that's their time to go to the grocery store if they get off work at 7 o'clock and they need that time. So it is extended, but he did say that Augusta is still very, very dark. So while I wait on hearing from former President Donald Trump again and getting that stream back up, I will go back to the video that I have from the mayor's conference this morning. But let me get this started when he actually starts speaking. So let me go ahead and take this for you guys real quick, and I'll be right back with any other updates.
Folks who have worked around the clock to make that happen. I'm going to repeat that. The boil water advisory has been lifted, and the water is safe to drink. We started off this morning with a visit from Lieutenant Governor Burton, who came in to get an update at our Emergency Operations Center. He and the entire Augusta legislative delegation, as you know, they'll be critical in helping Augusta get back to some sense of normalcy, making sure that we had a proper funding both at the state and federal level. And they have been very, very instrumental in us being able to access resources, so we couldn't thank them enough. Today we begin the process of what I mentioned yesterday, and that's taking the resources to the community. You know, in the past we've been using these pods, these points of distribution out at Southgate Plaza, Diamond Lakes, and down at the depot facility. And there are so many neighborhoods that were essentially cut off and that they don't always have access to transportation. So we are taking the resources to the community by a couple of ways. We have a mutual aid agreement, as you know, we signed with DeKalb County. Their CEO, Michael Thurman, today they delivered 10 truckloads of produce. They left DeKalb County about 3:30 or 4 o'clock this morning. We started those community resources at 8 o'clock at the Greater Young Zion Baptist Church. My heart was warming that the line extended all the way across the Beach Island Bridge at some point. At 10 o'clock, we were at Good Samaritan Baptist Church. At noon, we're at Good Shepherd Baptist Church, my home. The distribution there was going well. At 2 o'clock, we're going to be at Broadway off of Barton Chapel, and at 4 at Faith Outreach. And these resources include fresh boxes of produce, as well as a generous donation from FPL Foods of more than 80,000 pounds of fresh ground beef patty. So it's been phenomenal. I'm going to turn it over to Chief in just a second, but I want to continue to reiterate that a curfew remains in place, even though we're regaining power throughout our city. Every day we're making continuous improvement in restoring our traffic signals, but it still remains a dark, unsafe city in certain parts, so the 10 o'clock curfew will remain in place. And I'm going to continue to emphasize for our residents to be patient. Things are getting better. To be courteous. We realize that as things get better, there are more people out in lines. There's more people trying to access resources, and I understand that if you haven't had power or water for 8 days, it's certainly a testing time. So continue to be courteous, be patient. We're going into the weekend. Things are getting better. And we couldn't be more excited about all the help that we've received from our partners at the National Guard, the American Red Cross, United Way, the CSRA, the many agencies that have poured into our city to help us. Georgia Power Company who's helping us restore power. So thank them. And lastly, I want to thank the employees of Augusta Richmond County, because they have really stepped up big. We've had 8 straight days and nights of working. Some of us a lot of long hours. I repeat that every single day. But we're getting better, and I appreciate and I thank them for their dedication. So now I'm going to turn it over to Chief Burton. He's going to give you an update on some of his responsibilities. Thank you, Chief. We'll take questions at the end.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Just have a few points that I want to ensure that you receive. The roads are being cleared. For the most part, they are clear with the exception of those that involve power lines. So all the major thoroughfares are clear. Most of the side roads are clear, with the exception of those that involve power lines. I want to also report that Georgia Power has continued to make progress. We're seeing progress by the hour. I'm pleased to report that they have indicated that they are at 72% restoration at this point. Our points of distribution are continue to remain open 9 a.m. to 6:30, providing ice, water, tarps, and MREs for those in our community. Volunteer support. Golden Harvest Bank is seeking volunteers for those that are interested in helping out our efforts. Please reach out to them if you're able to assist. Our shelters continue.
All right, so I know I haven't been able to play that entire full video yet, but we are getting another clear shot of former President Donald Trump's visit to Columbia County today. So I'm going to take us into this. I'm not sure what kind of sound we will get, but it looks like the briefing is over. So I'm going to go ahead and take this full for you guys so you can kind of listen in a little bit of what's going on. If we will get any sound, I'm not sure. We might not have any sound for this, but in that case, give me 1 second. It looks like we have sound. It's just some really low sound, maybe. Yeah, there we go. Looks like he should be walking through here shortly. Give me 1 second to update some things really quickly. All right, there we go. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. Looks like we have some movement going on here. Again, if you're just now joining us, the former President Donald Trump landed in Augusta around 2:10 p.m., went to the Emergency Operations Center in Columbia County along with Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, where he was kind of briefed on the storm damage over there and got briefed on some really important information. They're both supposed to speak around 3:45. I'm not sure if this is where that is happening or if they're going to go to another location to do that. I'm kind of figuring all of this out at the same time with you guys as well. But here they are, the Georgia Governor Brian Kemp and former President Donald Trump on your screen now. Turn some volumes up a little bit to maybe see if we can get a little bit more sound here. Right now, it looks like they're greeting some service members. We might hear a word here now. Not quite sure. But again, if you're just now joining us, former President Donald Trump is visiting Columbia County today, surveying some of the damage, and him and Brian Kemp are both supposed to speak here shortly, and we will have that for you guys as well. Our team was there when the plane landed at the Augusta Regional Airport at 2:10 and is there now, been following along on sort of that tour, getting this shot for us. 2 days ago, we had Vice President Kamala Harris in Augusta as well, so many leaders coming to see some of the damage and get some boots on the ground and see it with their own eyes. So this is just the latest example of that. We should be hearing from the two of them shortly, but it does look like there are a fair share of supporters there. Again, he was just briefed at the Emergency Operations Center alongside Brian Kemp on the damage in Evans in Columbia County. We were told that they would be speaking at the Performing Arts Center and that was supposed to be at 3:45. I'm not sure of the exact location at the moment, but I'm sure we should be hearing from them shortly. So we're going to stick with this for a little while until we can get some new information. But it does look like he's making his rounds around the crowd at the moment, taking his time to greet everybody.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Let me first of all just say thank you so much for joining us as we continue to work day and night to recover from this historic but also horrific storm. I want to thank you for keeping the nation's attention on those who are hurting in Georgia, and I certainly appreciate President Trump helping us do that as well. You know, Marty and I both have literally been all over the state on the storm path over the last several days, and I told every stop I went to that this storm spared no one. It took one of our finest and a firefighter, Leon Davis, who was an assistant chief in Blackshear, Georgia, when a tree fell on his truck, responding to a call. Just a few miles from here, it took a young mother, just 27 years old, who had 1-month-old twin boys in the bed with her when a tree fell in their home up in Thompson. Just south of here in Washington County, a 7-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl died when a tree fell on their home, trapped them inside, and their house caught on fire. Marty and I had the opportunity to speak to the emergency crews who responded to both of those situations, and our hearts are still heavy from that tragic event that they experienced and described to us, but also for what they had to endure. There was also a lady trapped in her car for 3 or 4 days, another trapped in her home for the same amount of time. Thankfully, they were rescued by some of our finest. But we've heard of many other horrific stories like this. And all in all, Georgians, we have lost 33 of our fellow citizens as a direct result of Hurricane Helene. But I'm here to tell you, in spite of such tragedy and heartbreak, in spite of the pain that we've seen, there are many stories of hope and perseverance. Over the course of this past week, Marty and I traveled to Valdosta and Augusta and many communities in between. We spent time with linemen from all over the country who came to Georgia to help those in need and get their power back on. We prayed with grieving people and had the honor of shaking hands of those who have worked without sleep, hardly taking any breaks, and without slowing down to get those trapped in homes free. They were feeding those without food and getting housing for those that no longer had a home. In Glasscock County, just up the road, we spent time with the sheriff and his family, all of whom were working around the clock. In Johnson County, not far from here, there's a small church that's serving as a miracle for their community. That congregation did not even exist a few months ago, but this past week they were feeding 400 to 600 people a day. In Sandersville, a pastor prayed for us and commented on the beautiful message on Marty's shirt that she wore for several days in Valdosta, when we were in Valdosta, in red letters that spelled out simply pray. That's a message we all need right now. And I ask that all of you join our family in continuing to pray for those devastated by Hurricane Helene. On Tuesday night, we met linemen in a small Mexican restaurant who came from literally hundreds and hundreds of miles away, from New Jersey, Massachusetts, Chicago, and other places. I joked with the guy from Massachusetts, we normally don't let y'all come down here to Georgia. But I told him how much we were glad to have him, and we appreciated the work that they were doing. The next morning, we tried to go see a bunch of linemen that were having breakfast at one of the tent cities they had set up at a staging site that had over 500 trucks and over 1,000 people. We got out of the car at 6:30 a.m. before the sun was even up. And most of these hard-working people had already eaten breakfast and were walking out to go crank their truck to start working to get people's power back up, whom they've never met. Those same linemen were going to keep working well into the night. That is the kind of response that we have seen after this crisis from Georgians and from people far beyond in this state. Resilience and hope have been on full display everywhere we've gone, including right here in Columbia County. We're grateful for those incredible people all over this state, but we're also mindful that every moment of every day since this storm passed, of the loss of life and the devastation that it brought. We knew it was going to be bad, which is why we prepared early, just like they did here in Columbia County. I declared a state of emergency 2 days ahead of the storm, which gave us time to mobilize and prepare for the worst. And I'm so glad that we did, because it impacted literally every part of our state. Many communities have been scarred with major infrastructure damage. And at one point, at least 1.3 million power meters were not functional, and many more Georgians were without power. That number, incredibly, is down to 225,000 as we speak. In Atlanta, we saw record rainfall with 11.12 inches of rain in a 48-hour period. The previous state record goes back to 1886, when we had 9.6 inches. As many people around the country know, we are in an agricultural state, with agriculture serving as our #1 industry. Hurricane Helene has wiped out much of this year's crop across the board. Our Agriculture Commissioner, Tyler Harper, couldn't be here today, but he wanted me to pass along a few highlights of this devastation. 35% of our cotton crop is a total loss. 10 to 30% of the peanut crop is lost. 14 dairies across the state are still without power. There was 22 total from the start. Over 222 poultry houses have been destroyed, with hundreds of others damaged and some loss of operations for the entire farm. There's extensive infrastructure damage and loss of livestock facilities. And as I told the President earlier, approximately 4 million acres of timberland has been impacted, and 48,000 acres of pecans have been damaged or destroyed as a result of this storm. I want everyone in this state to know that we are with you during these difficult times, and we aren't going anywhere. We are putting every possible state resource we have at response and recovery, and I've taken several executive authority steps to try to bring relief as quickly as we can. That includes activating and deploying roughly 2,000 Georgia Guardsmen, our citizen soldiers who are doing incredible work in the field. It includes suspending the gas tax for as long as we're under a state of emergency and waiving the penalty on the use of dyed diesel fuel in street vehicles. I want to thank the members of the General Assembly. I know we got some of them here with us today for supporting all of these measures. They are crucial partners in our overall response to this tragic event and have been tireless advocates for the Georgians they represent. And we'll continue to urge FEMA to add more impacted counties to the federal declaration list. We started with just 11, and after a call to both the White House and FEMA, they upped that number considerably up to 44 or 45 counties as we speak. We're also being mindful of our neighbors who have come to our aid in times past. Yesterday, I authorized the Georgia Guard to send a Chinook helicopter and crew to North Carolina to help in ongoing search and rescue operations. What they're going through, what we're all going through, is a living nightmare. And we're going to continue to pull together as we go through this together. These are just a few of the actions that we've taken, but rest assured, we will not stop until everyone is recovered and made whole. Someone sent me a Bible verse earlier today, and I've been thinking a lot about this. It's Galatians 6:9. And it reads, "And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up." Those words epitomize where we are today and our commitment. We are not giving up. We are not going to leave until the job is done. I want to encourage all of our local officials and so many of their citizens that are working so hard on this recovery and helping and talking to people every day. Keep up that great work, keep the faith, and know that we will be with you till the end. It is my honor, and I want to thank President Trump for coming back to our state again for the second time to view storm damage and keep a national focus on our state as we recover. I hope you'll welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump. Mr. President.
Brian, thank you very much. Your governor is doing a fantastic job, I will tell you that, and we're all with him and with everybody. We've just met a group of really wonderful patriots that are working very hard. They've done it before, but they told me they've never seen one like this, Brian. This is the worst they've seen, and some of them are looking back 25 years. That's a lot, but I want to thank the governor and everybody for having put out to the extent that they've had to, and it's really incredible. Some of the people that we met just now, Congressman Rick Allen, terrific person, Speaker of the Georgia House, John Burns, who's here, former Congressman Doug Collins. Where's Doug Collins? Is he right here? Doug Collins. What a nice guy he is. Oh, Doug, I haven't seen you in so long. You haven't changed. You look good. You look better, actually. State Senator Max Burns, who's here, and District Attorney Bobby Christine. And we want to thank you, but we want to thank the people that are working so hard. And we're here in Evans, Georgia, to express our support, our love, and our prayers, and all of the communities, the suffering. It's not even believable when you look and you see the kind of suffering that's going on right now. But one of the biggest, I guess, question marks is the fact that there's so many people missing. I've never seen anything where so many, the numbers are so large of those that are missing, Governor, right? So that's something that hopefully they'll be found, and they'll be found very healthy, but it never looks great. It never looks great. Our hearts break for the more than 200 American families who have lost their lives already, officially 200, and that number unfortunately is going to be going up. It's one of the deadliest storms in American history. More than 24 Georgians have died, including a 27-year-old mother and her two precious babies who lived not very far from McDuffie County. And father, a lot of people knew these people. They're great. As father and grandfather, I know that such sudden and tragic loss must be almost unbearable. Don't know how you can even take it. Loved ones all over your county, all over your state, and all over a lot of other states. You have Florida. Think of it, you have Virginia, you have South Carolina, Alabama, North Carolina maybe hit the worst. North Carolina is so bad. I want to thank Elon Musk, by the way, for his quick action with Starlink. He supplied a lot of equipment to the governor, to Georgia, and to North Carolina in particular, and he acted very, very quickly. They needed communication. There was no communication. The poles are down, the wires are down. And he acted really, really quickly. In fact, I called him, and I was getting thank you notices already from North Carolina and Georgia, and I wasn't off the phone with him, so I don't know what the hell I guess he's got some kind of a little special deal going. He works pretty fast, I'll tell you, but he's been great. And Larry Ellison made a very big contribution, and a friend of the governor's and mine is right here, Steve Witkoff, who also made a very big contribution. Steve, we appreciate it very much. Thank you. The homes and roads, as the governor told you, it's all being worked on. Everything's being worked on. And the good thing is when I just met a group, and now I met two groups, and now I'm meeting a third. And I will tell you that I have no doubt that whatever can be done is going to be done. It's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of effort, and it's a very heartbreaking situation. We're going to go to North Carolina now, and we're going to see some of our friends in North Carolina, some very good friends, and they have just been totally devastated. They've never seen anything like this. But I want to thank everybody for being here, and we have a big election coming up, and if I'm involved, I told the governor, if I'm involved, they're going to get the best treatment. They're going to get treatment like we did in the past. We had a big, the farmers got hit very hard, and I guess they got hit just as hard, or maybe, is this worse, or is this of equal? Probably worse. That was a bad one. But we worked 2 or 3 times together in big storms, but I don't think we've seen anything like this. But we got it taken care of in record time, and we will be very open and very committed to this state because it's a great state and you have great leadership, and the governor again is doing a fantastic job. So thank everybody very much for being here. I appreciate it, and we may see you later, we may not, but we will be back, and whenever the governor needs us, we will be here. And thank you over there. That's a nice group of people. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. It's great. No. It's great. No, we work together. We've always worked together very well. Really well. It's top. Yes? Yeah, of course they are. It's been a terrible response from the White House. They're missing $1 billion that was used for another purpose, and nobody's seen anything like that. Now, from that standpoint, it's been terrible. Say it? I'm not thinking about voters right now. I'm thinking about lives, and to be honest, it's much bigger than anything else, but we're thinking about lives. A lot of lives lost, a lot of people missing, and that's what I'd be focused on right now. No, it's not. It's inflation has devastated our economy. It's one of the big problems we have. And on jobs, we have the illegals have taken more jobs than anybody else. You have illegals coming in and they're taking the jobs. And when you look at the numbers from that standpoint, it's a shame. We have to get the jobs to the people that have lived here for a long time and that are great citizens of our country. But when you look at the job numbers, they just came out, and then you look at who's getting the jobs. And it's been very unfortunate from that standpoint. You have illegal, you have the migrants, you're reading about it. Now, a lot of the money that was supposed to go to Georgia and supposed to go to North Carolina and all of the others is going and has gone already. It's been gone for people that came into the country illegally, and nobody's ever seen anything like that. That's a shame. I don't know anything about what he said. I only can hope that it's going to be free and fair, and I think in this state it will be, and I hope in every state it will be, and I think we're going to do very well, but right now we're focused on this. We're not focused on the election.
Right now here in Georgia, it's showing that your numbers with Harris are basically neck and neck. Do you think you could possibly win Georgia, or do you think that the numbers just look back?
Well, I won it easily in 2016. We actually were very close last time, and right now the recent poll came up, we're up 7. So I think we're pretty far up, and we seem to be going up, and she seems to be going down, so I hope we're going to keep it that way. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sorry for those of you who said I was talking a little bit low, but I was just saying we are going to take a little bit of a quick break before we come back. We just heard from former President Donald Trump, who spoke in Columbia County today to some supporters in the press after being briefed on some of the storm damage in Columbia County. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp spoke before him and just kind of said it was one of this storm spared no one, is what Georgia Governor Brian Kemp has been saying about this. So I'm just going to check in with our reporter and see if we're going to get a shot of the president leaving the airport and see if we're going to have that on camera as well before I wrap things up a little bit too early. So before we do that, I was going to say that we're going to take a quick little break. We'll be right back, and if we aren't going to get that visual, we'll wrap things up, and if not, we'll hang here for a little bit longer and watch the former president as he leaves Augusta. But the other big news this morning was that the Augusta Mayor Garnett Johnson earlier in the stream did say that the boil water advisory for Augusta, Richmond County had been lifted, so the water is safe to drink. You can drink the water, and then also that the curfew is still in place, the extended curfew from 10 p.m. to 7 p.m. So I will be right back, check and see if we're going to get any sort of visuals on the former president as he leaves, and then we'll be right back. All right, so very quick little break. I just got the update. We will not be getting the visuals on that. It doesn't look like it will be the best visuals of the former president leaving the Augusta Regional Airport. But if you're just now joining us, we're going to get ready to wrap up this stream just here in a minute. But we started with Augusta Mayor Garnett Johnson, who did say that the boil water advisory in Augusta had been lifted and that the curfew was still in place. We then watched as former President Donald Trump landed at the Augusta Regional Airport around 2:10, where he was then briefed at the Emergency Operations Center in Columbia County by Georgia Governor Brian Kemp and some other local officials on sort of the storm damage there. And at right about 3:45, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp and former President Donald Trump spoke a little bit, with Brian Kemp kind of repeating something he's been saying over the last 8 days, and saying that this storm spared no one. And then we heard a little bit from former President Donald Trump. And one of the things that he said is just that whatever can be done, it's going to be done, and he hopes that it gets done. So that was just a little bit of a summary of what's happened on this stream today. The former president should be headed out of Augusta now. He did say he was also going to head to North Carolina to see some of the damage there as well. So for this stream, that's all we have for you right now. We should have some of those video clips or anything that we've showed on here today will be in our later newscast. And if we have any very important news that we need to share with you, we'll put that on our website as well. But until then, be safe, stay off the roads if you don't have to be there, and we will see you later. Thanks so much for joining us here at the News 12 Now desk. I'm Kayla Lopez.